What have we got today? We are back with some more DBD Reddit posts where we help determine who is the a-hole in each situation. And if you're enjoying these videos, then please make sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe as well, because we are super close to 250 subscribers. So with that, let's dive in. How much of an a-hole am I? So I played a game in Haddonfield as Leatherface. I was running his base perks plus Rancor, because Rancor best perk. It's not a bad perk. I made quick work of the survivors I played against because I was in the lower ranks. I think I was rank 14 at the time. Old school DBD ranks. I mean, I didn't play at the time, but yeah, I sort of remember how it worked. Eventually, it was just me and the Adam. I found him running down the side of the map at the end of the road, and I noticed him pick up his key shortly before I chainsawed him. I remember that someone brought a white ward, so he was likely picking up his key so he didn't lose it. So I, being the mega a-hole that I am, walked Adam into the corner, let him escape from my grip, and then whacked him down again, letting the key fall out of his hands. Then I hooked him next to the hatch. I checked the end game screen, and it turned out that while someone else brought a white ward, he had the key add-on, so it made it that he kept his key. So basically, I went out of my way so someone wouldn't lose their key because I felt like being a super doucher. How much of an a-hole am I? Okay, so yeah, I think you are the a-hole here. I mean, it is kind of poetic justice though, isn't it? You're literally going out of your way so this guy loses his key, but he brought the add-on so he wouldn't lose his key anyway. I mean, look, it's one thing to play to win, but to actively go out of your way to ruin someone else's chances because you wanted a survivor to lose their item is kind of silly. Now, Leatherface may be a brutal killer, but there is absolutely no need to take pleasure in someone else's misfortune, especially when they've been downed and you knew they already had the key and you just wanted them to lose it, and that was your end game. I mean, that is pretty strange behavior, especially in a game that's supposed to be about strategy and competition and not being a super doucher. At the end of the day, it is just a game, and you're actively trying to make other players feel bad or punishing them over an item. You're missing the point. I mean, sure, it's fun to win, but to get tilted over a key is kind of weird. So that's one to the a-hole, so let's just put it up here. Am I the a-hole? So I was killer with Bubba, and I hook someone and the other 3 survivors appear. They go back and forth, looping me near a hook. They do not try to unhook because I'm Bubba. Then I'm finally down someone, and I saw another one trying to sneak past so he could unhook. I leave the downed survivor on the ground and chase the other. Using M2, I caught up with him and downed him, along with the just unhooked survivor. I hook one of the downed survivors, then I see the last one. I start chasing him, leaving the others on the ground. I finally downed him and won the game. After the match, the chat was full of "you ducking camper" and some other horrible things that I won't mention. So, am I the a-hole? Should I just leave them be and chase one of the survivors while the others unhook and heal? Or is it alright to just try and down them all at once? Honestly, no, I don't think you are the a-hole here. You played smart by capitalizing on the other survivors' decisions. They were looping you around the hook and avoiding unhooks because they didn't want to get caught. And that's on them. It doesn't seem like you camped or tunneled, you were just making the most out of the situation. And it worked out in your favor. If survivors are just too busy looping around the hook and not trying to get the unhook, then it's perfectly fine to keep chasing them. I mean, like you said, are you just meant to let the other survivors unhook and heal like right in front of you? Absolutely not. It's part of the game. It's how the game works. It's frustrating when people in the post-game chat label you as a camper, when all you're doing is just playing effectively. Like, you weren't staying around the hook to force a specific outcome. You are reacting to the survivors' movements, and like I said, playing the game as you should. If they wanted a better chance, they could have tried a more coordinated save, or just stopped looping you around the hook. In the end, it's all about strategy, and if you win, you win. And that's one to the not an a-hole. Am I an a-hole? So today, while playing a little bit of Survivor against a hag, I had a rather douche-headed Jake on my team, who would use urban evasion to body block me and cut ahead of me to get saves even when I was like 5 feet away. So the last time he decided to do this to me, I said, screw it, and I just stood up and proceeded to laugh my ass off while he got hooked and died while I casually strolled out the exit gates. Now, it sounds to me like you both made some pretty questionable choices here. Whilst Jake's actions weren't ideal, especially if he was actively trying to body block you and cut ahead so he can get the saves when you're a lot closer. But for all we know, he could have had like a challenge where he has to get a certain amount of saves in the match, or even just trying to play the way he felt was best. Don't get me wrong, it is frustrating when teammates are not working with you, but intentionally letting him get hooked and dying when you could have done something about it it's a little bit extreme. I mean, sure, Jake could have been more mindful of your position and not taken the saves that you were about to make, but ignoring him and just letting him die, especially when you could have helped, isn't the best response either. I think both of you could have definitely played this game a lot more cooperatively. So considering I think you were both the a-hole, we'll add a point for each, I think. What actually counts as toxic? Am I the a-hole? Toxic is the gaming community as a whole, and it seems kind of overused, especially in the DBD community. The reason I ask is because I run Boilover, and while I had the killer's attention, I run to the farthest corner of the map and be downed while my teammates finish the final gen. After the gates opened and we got out, I was called toxic because what I did. Personally, I think it was a reasonable strat. Maybe annoying, yes, but I wouldn't think it was toxic. Or am I wrong? I see where you're coming from. It sounds like you used a strategy that took advantage of the situation to help your team, and in that context, I wouldn't label it as toxic. Running Boilover and pulling the killer away from the action while your teammates finish the gen, I think is a legitimate tactic. It's all about playing the game and leveraging the perks and mechanics available to you. If I told you, yeah you, finish the gen and I'm gonna take the killer for a loop as long as I could, that's kind of the same thing really, because at that time I was using a tactic to keep the killer distracted. The label toxic usually gets thrown around when other players are being deliberately disruptive, like griefing others or excessively camping and tunneling in an unfair way. But what you did, whilst being a little bit frustrating for the killer, doesn't fall into that category. It sounds like you were just being efficient and playing the game with a strategic mindset. A lot of the toxicity complaints in the community stem from different expectations and playstyles. Some people take frustration over losing and they lash out, calling things toxic, even though it's a part of the game's mechanics. As long as you're not doing anything intentionally harmful like sabotaging your teammates or ruining the experience for everyone, then it's hard to call it anything else except for the competitive nature of the game. So in my opinion, you're not an a-hole for using a strategic approach. It's part of the flow of the competitive gameplay. But what's your take on it? Do you think it's an issue of how people interpret toxic behavior in these situations? Make sure you let me know in the comments. And look, in all honesty, I'm sure he could have left you in the corner and went to monitor his gens. Nobody forced him to stay with you. But those are all the posts that I have for you today. If you are enjoying these videos, make sure you give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel so I can continue making content like this. And if you want to see some more of my DBD Reddit content, I'll make sure it's linked in the description. But with that, gamers, stay safe, and I will see you in the next video.